Welcome to our new series, A Questionable Life. Each week, we want to bring you up to speed on the big idea that will be talked about in your small group. So, if you're new to a community small group, or if you missed this weekend's teaching, this video should definitely bring you up to speed. We're glad you're taking time to connect with others in a small group. So, here we go. Many times when we start our small groups, the leader will ask you, who did you bless this past week? That question should remind us that we need to be living intentional lives focused on others. A life lived with a mission. Here at Community, we talk about living missionally this way. B-L-E-S-S. We believe that we've been called to bless our neighborhoods, bless our city, and our world. And bless stands for 5 missional practices that we could do every day. The B stands for begin with prayer. We begin by asking God to show us who He wants us to bless and how He wants us to bless our world. The L stands for listen. We listen to people, and we don't just focus on ourselves. The E stands for eat. We share meals with people. This might be my favorite. The S stands for serve. When we understand people's points of need, we come alongside and we serve them. And the final S stands for story. We share the story of Jesus and the difference that He's making in our lives. But here's the thing about bless. When it comes to bless, it seems that there are 2 kinds of people in the world. Those who B-L-E-S and those who S. Now, think about this for just a moment. For many, the first 4 missional practices aren't that hard to embrace. Begin with prayer? Sure, I could do that every morning over coffee. All day even. Listen? Well, as long as I remember to be quiet and pay attention, I can do that. Eat? Who doesn't love sharing a good meal with friends? Serve? Well, most of us want to give back in some way, so helping our friends or our neighbors or becoming part of a regular community organization is a no-brainer. It's that final S, story, that can be tricky for a lot of people. Sharing the story of Jesus. Now, there's a quote that I've heard quite a bit in the past few years by St. Francis of Assisi that says, "Preach the gospel always, and if necessary, use words." I understand the heart behind that quote, but if we're not careful, we can actually be using that as an excuse to never talk with others about Jesus. Theologian David Bosch said, "Of course words are necessary. Unexplained deeds in themselves do not constitute the mission of God's people." Words are completely necessary. So what are we to do? Well, in your small group, we want you to take a close look at the following passage in Colossians 4, where the Apostle Paul gives us a great model for what it means for every one of us to share our story. Paul writes, "Devote yourselves to prayer, being watchful and thankful, and pray for us too, that God may open a door for our message, so that we may proclaim the mystery of Christ, for which I'm in chains. Pray that I may proclaim it clearly, as I should. You be wise in the way that you act towards outsiders. Make the most of every opportunity. Let your conversation be always full of grace, seasoned with salt, so that you may know how to answer everyone." Now, what a great verse. What the Apostle Paul is saying here is that we need to live a life that evokes curiosity. Live a life that arouses questions. Are you and I living a questionable life? The challenge to each of us today is to ask ourselves, are we living the kind of lives that will cause people to ask, who are you? Why are you doing that? Is there anything questionable about the way that we care for people in need, about the way that we spend our money, or about how we prioritize our time? Is there anything questionable about how we stand up for the powerless, or about our behaviors or our ethics, about our relationships? As we look more closely at Jesus' story over the next 4 weeks, we'll challenge one another to follow in His footsteps and live the kind of lives that spark those kinds of questions. And we'll challenge one another to be prepared to give an answer, to know how to answer everyone who asks, who are you? Why are you doing that? We hope you enjoy connecting with your small group. God bless. One special note. On January 25th, we'll actually bring all of our small groups together during our weekend services across all of our campuses to pray for you in a commissioning moment. And what we're going to ask you is, where or who do you sense that God is calling you to bless? So in your small group, you can have a moment of time where you talk about that to prepare for the commissioning moment on January 25th. Take care.